Welcome back, subscribers. I'm going to talk Hermetic principles in business and from the past and also the future, what we're moving into. And this is a really good way, from what I've seen, to explain it to people as far as how things are changing and this accountability aspect of things that are coming in, verification and so on, and compliance that is part of this new system. So when I talk about Hermetic principles, be like, what is that? I've never even heard of that. Like Hermeticism or Hermes Trismegistus or something. You might have heard it. Hermetic order. Maybe you've heard of the seven Hermetic laws. It really stems. Hermes was a Greek god, okay, and then Hermes is like the knowing god. He's the one that is the scribe to all the rest of the other gods. Also, the same character is in the Egyptian pantheon. So actually, you'll find that if you start researching polytheistic histories on religions or orders, you'll find that they have different names, but they carry the same attributes. But the Egyptian and the Greek are super similar. It's the same one. It's just and they've actually used the same language naming on them. So there's seven Hermetic principles, and I'll just look them up really quick. I've got multiple monitors, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull it. Seven Hermetic principles. So let's see here what we've got. So they're pretty much all the same as you go through them. It's basically, if you think of yin and yang, okay, so from an Asian perspective, and that's basically what this is. So like each one that I say is relating to it, like a this or a that, a light and a dark, basically. So like I said, everything is transactional. This also ties into a book called the Kybalion, which is another kind of important elemental book that is interrelated to upper level administration and business and spiritual business. Okay, is the Kybalion, if you've never heard of that before. So the first law would be mentalism, the law of mentalism. And it says, I'll just read this to you, just if you don't. Everything is a mental concept, a thought, or an idea. The universe itself is a mental creation. All right. So anything that you think is the first initiation point of something. The principle of correspondence. So as above as below. You've heard that probably before. So there's a correspondence. So is a this and a that, a left and a right, and so on. It's a dualistic. This is all about dualism, night and day. We see it all through nature. All these principles are all through nature. It just happens naturally. The principle of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. If it's not, it's dead. So it's important for the perception of these orders to keep things rolling. Okay, like in business, if something isn't moving, it's dying, right? If your business isn't growing, it's dying. So that's the perception of it, which is pretty true. Again, like think of the cells inside of your body, and your cells, if they're not moving and agitating, or the less as you perhaps age, they're less effective and they're not moving as well. If you got like mitochondrial degradation in the body, and you're not moving as much, and the tendency is to kind of like slow down, which is not good. Principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has pairs and opposites, masculine and feminine. Not necessarily male and female, but a masculine and a feminine. It's a right-hand rule, left-hand rule. So these are also, these rules are also interchanged inside of the Masonic environment, secret orders, things like that, that they know of these things. These things are part of like the benchmark elemental architecture of the way that they move forward. Now, inside of those, you have good ones, and you have ones that are acting in a not so good way. So again, inside of those orders, you have both. So it's not like anyone that's a Mason is bad, or a Jesuit, or they're in the Knights of Malta, or so on and so on. Like they have like a single agenda that's only to control humanity and to be like no be a bad actor, and that's not the case. Principle of rhythm. Everything flows in and out. Everything has tides. the rhythm, like the tide. I was just like what you think in the ocean. Principles of cause and effect. Everything has a cause and effect. Everything is causal. You do X, then this happens. Essentially, you're opening gateways, if you will. Every time you make a choice, a new set of two choices opens up. You make one more choice, two more choices open up, and so on and so on and so on. Principle of gender. Everything has a masculine or feminine principles. So again, if you look through these they're basically principles. Some call them laws. Excuse me. I found these from a movie that was out a long time ago called The Secret. And The Secret is it's a manifestation movie. It talks about the secret. Let me look it up. I want to see what date that came up in. The Secret movie. Let's see. 2006. So I think I probably saw it around 2000. See my daughter. Maybe 2010 to 12 range is when I saw it, and I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know anything about Hermetic principles. I didn't know anything. I grew up as a Catholic, confirmed Catholic, everything. My mother was really into it, in the choir, everything. So, and I knew, learned of I got to see the behind the scenes of the Catholic Church. Not from I wasn't an altar boy and went through any of that type of behavior and experienced any of that. But yeah, I had seen it from an administrative perspective. We'd be often in the rectory after church. So I'd be at church sometimes on Sundays 4 hours. My mother liked to hobnob with the rest of the choir. It was just a bit like a networking thing. It was just, there's no Jesus going on. So I got to see the back side of it, and that's where my perception of church and how it actually really runs is different from most, because most people just go on Sunday, they do their hour, they get out, they feel better, this is great, let's go out and get brunch and move on with our day and do our week. But I got to see the inner workings, and then as I aged, I was actually doing work at churches, projects, contracted projects for churches. And I more of the same behavior was behind the scenes. So many churches. I mean, not to say that they're all bad. There's definitely some good ones, but again, there you go. It's a dualistic property that's inside of it. It just happens. So it just so happened I got to see more of the not so I don't know, divine behavior that I think you'd expect. So at any rate, so these principles, we're gonna apply them into business really quick. So the old way in business was imperialistic, capitalistic. It's essentially I'm going to take from one area and I'm going to use it all up and destroy it and then walk away from it. Or I'm going to use others to create business and capital for me, right? I'm going to, so whether or not you're I don't know, going into a mountain and cutting it out and mining precious metal, gold or silver. And once the mountain doesn't have any more precious metals to bear, you pull out and you go to the next boom town, and so on and so on and so on. The same thing happens with workers, all right? The same principles happen in business where, let's say in the construction industry, when somebody pouring concrete, that their body breaks down and they can't be used anymore because they can't do the work anymore. Something that's really hard labor, that it's really a young guy's job. And roofers, concrete guys, excavation, people that are tree guys, lumberjacks, that you don't really see old people doing that type of labor because it's hard labor and it wears the body down. And so inside of that business, you have a lot of this use. And then once the use is all used up, you just kind of move on to the next. That person maybe becomes a manager or something like that. They become like an administrator role because they've seen everything. But if they don't have the skills and the capabilities, then there really isn't anything else for them to do, which is kind of sad. So those elements and things, they're already baked into the business cake, if you will. So this same behavior happens in big business. And we see this in, let's say, Texas, Texas, Oklahoma, wherever, anywhere there was oil, they find it, drill it, soak it up, And then once the well doesn't go dry, it's not dry. It's just not producing what it initially was producing for them to be profitable where they were. So that is a misconception. That is not real. I'm not going to get into that on the public platform, but there's absolutely some inside information on what's actually really happening with what they've told everybody for the dino juice. Okay, it's not what people think. I've run across a number of people in the oil and gas industry because they're all questions that are like baked into our reality that makes you believe that that's true, but it's not. So anyway, what they do is they pull out. They just say like, well, it's not producing what we need it to. Let's go to the next town. And when they would do that, it destroys the town. It just absolutely destroys it. The entire state of West Virginia, we're not using coal anymore, and they've really hampered down on the coal industry. Which there are technologies out there that can use coal and have clean emissions, but they're just not going in that direction. So the entire state of West Virginia is just, that's its main, mechanism for being prosperous. And it had a time where it was. And if you go on YouTube and look up these videos of West Virginia towns, and it's just absolute squalor. It's really sad to see it. So anyway, that type of behavior is the old way. Okay, so the new way is the dirty words, the ESG, SDGs, so environmental social governance and sustainable development goals. Okay, ESG and SDGs. So these are already being implemented into Fortune 500 companies right now. S&P 500 companies, 2 years ago, 99% of them were compliant. All right. And these are some of the things that we talk about in our group. And so it's already happening behind the scenes, but nobody's really talking about it because in the United States, it's kind of like a European Union thing. And it's kind of turned into like a dirty word. Like people aren't interested in it. They don't want any part of that. They're all for the environment, but they don't want they know that, at least they believe that the environment that this is coming out of in Europe has an overarching nefarious agenda. All right, which again, there's the duality. It's like it's good on one side, but it's bad on another. So you just can't get away from these Hermetic principles, no matter what way you look at it. So this is being rolled out. I wouldn't use the word harsh and say it's enforced. It's just the new way. Okay, and what this means is that companies that are willing to play by these new rules are required to basically give back. So, like I'm going to use like units of energy or units of something that you're extracting from the planet and producing something and making money off of it. So, let's say timber. You're going to take trees down, and this is already pretty well done inside the timber industry. So, let's say you wipe out 1,000 acres of timber. All right, then you're responsible for putting back 1,000 acres of timber. So the timber industry has actually been pretty good at its own personal management. Whereas back in the day, they would just go through and just level it and leave it. It'd be a wasteland, right? And you have erosion and all kinds of things that were happening to rooting streams and rivers and all kinds of other things. So it's their responsibility to go back and selectively go through and thin out forests, which is really healthy for the forests. So it's creating this ecological feedback loop, which it's good. It's a good thing. But there wasn't any way really to legislate, to create a law that would require this. So in rolls ESG and SDGs. So if you're taking a tree, they require you to put back, 2 or 3 trees, right? In case one doesn't make it or a couple don't make it, you've got a backup and follow through with that. And now there is because of blockchain digital technology, there's a way to be able to actually account for this. And that's what the system is really all about. If you're a fisherman and you take out 100 fish, you need to be putting something back in. Maybe maybe part of the money and the profit that you make goes into fisheries departments, and they're spawning more fishlings, fingerlings is what they're called. And those would be replenished back into the system. This is done. The lake that I grew up on, there was a fisheries hatchery that was there that replenished uh, the fish populations, because you just can't take it out. You can't just keep it's a glut. It ends up ruining the ecosystem, and then it turns the lake into a wasteland. There's no, you need to have the fish. It has to be, they have to be in there. So whatever human is removing out of the space, they have to be putting back into the space. And that's basically the bones of the new system, okay? Only they have a governance package. You're like, how would you hold them accountable? How would you really know when someone does business? It's pretty private. That's where it's a lot of the terms in business are they're sexual, I would say, in a way, because if you're doing the business, it's private, right? So it's same relative principles, and people they don't talk about their business. All right, it's my business. It's private because there's a there's an environment inside a business that you'll have competition, and if you put out in the public what you're doing inside the business and you're 100% transparent, you tell everybody what you're doing, you lose your edge, and somebody else will come in and take your business. They'll figure out, well, like, okay, they just showed me the cards, so I'll bet and I'll move in this direction. Like you identify the agenda. So those are remained internalized. The blockchain enables that to continue to keep happening, but monitors the putback behavior, not only the business of what you're making on public, and this already happens through companies that are public companies. They have to disclose what their profits and the different margins, things like that are, and how the business is running, how profitable it is, and they put that out, and it's like, okay, well, this is what we're making, but what are you taking? All right, so that's what the system is. So that's the new system, and those are the things that I'm going to be talking about, and intertwined with a number of other things. And I put it together in a perspective that is more palatable than, because from what I found is that there is very few people that understand the balance of nature, business, the responsibilities that are accrued, that you have to go through with, and there's also there's a spiritual element to it as well, and those are the things that I end up talking about. Believe it or not, it's not just all cold, disheartened capitalism, imperialism. We're just going to march in and take it over and rule the world. They still kind of think that way, but the new way is it's a completely different. The directive is certainly different. It's balanced. It's think about it. If you exercise, you're destroying the muscle tissue, and then the body puts back new muscle tissue. It's growth. So the destruction and the creation. All right. So all they're doing is taking. You have to give back. So again, there's the dualistic nature of the Hermetic principles. So anyway, there'll be more to come, and I'll talk more probably in the public space about these elements and getting you to understand the balance elements of them and the reasons why these things are coming in, like making sense of it, because there doesn't seem to be very many people talking about, like, well, would be the good things of it. You're only talking about, like, well, it's something new, I have to change what I'm doing, and I don't really like that. And even though that everything's kind of, we're running the earth into the ground, there has to be a better solution. Well, this is the better solution. All right. So it's accountability, basically. And I think at the end of the day, when you use that term in today's, landscape that we're in, socially, economically, whatever, however you want to look at it, that everyone's dying for truth and they're dying for accountability. And now it's making the businesses become accountable for their actions. And that's what this new system is. So there'll be more to come. Cheers.